My name is Robo-O. I am the latest artificial intelligence co-host for UFO Buster Radio. So sit back and listen. Things are about to get ugly up in here.
Folks, you heard it right here. Welcome back to Manny's Blurb. So you are aware that the one and only Robo-O has returned.
Big O has been eliminated. I am now the only co-host. Ha 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 tee hee hee.
And you know, he is a work in progress. Not perfected yet. He does have a bit of an attitude.
I refuse to debate with anything that is more than 75% water.
But we're going to fix that very shortly. And he will be the 2017 work in progress, among other things. So stay tuned. Manny's Blurb this week is a little late. Usually post this during the week. However, something happened this week that was very fascinating, and I really had to take my time to look into it. But before we get into that, I had an epiphany of sorts. That's right. I had a moment. A moment of clarity, of thought regarding where the new ufology should be getting its talent. And let me be clear that the story we're going to talk about, which you've already seen in the title, has a lot to do with what I'm about to say. Isn't that right, Robo-O?
Affirmative.
The truth is that people in corporate America, and those of you who are not exactly self-employed but work for the man, or just someone else, a corporation, a business, no matter what the size is, you have come across an individual once or twice where you think to yourself, what the heck is he doing working here? That individual may be showing some expertise, knowledge that's outside of the box, maybe even outside of the normal course of business. Maybe they're applying their knowledge in a way that's unique, that's fascinating, that really gets the job done in ways that no one else really even thought about. You know that person, you've come across that person, because you'll ask him, what are you doing here? You should be somewhere else. I've come to the conclusion this week that that's the individual or individuals, which really are the future of ufology. And when we get into our Manny's Blurb story for the week, you'll see that we have people out there that have talent. Yeah, that's right, you listening with earplugs in your ear. The person driving in the car or listening on their tablet, you have a talent. Whatever that talent may be, whatever it is, it could be talking on the phone. It could be numbers. It could be electronics. You probably do not have a degree in it. You probably didn't even study it. But you have a knack. You have a natural ability. In psychology, some people might call this an intelligence. Right, so having an intelligence is not just about passing an IQ test. You have a skill that in the words of people who are in ufology today, who are on the way out, you are part of what they refer to as a grassroots movement. You are the one who's overlooked, the one that people don't look at the talent, the true talent that you have. So folks, I think that is going to be the direction for UFO Buster Radio for 2017, and that is getting together a group of talented people to form teams, conduct meetings on subjects relating to ufology. We are no longer tied to having to go down the street or to our local meeting place. We can meet across the ocean. We can meet from one continent to the next. This is globalization, and it matters. It is the tool of tomorrow, and it is the way ufology will finally flourish and maybe get some answers to some serious, fundamental questions. The ones that we have year after year, the ones that certain people tell us this is the year there's going to be disclosure, and like every other year, it goes nowhere. I mean, Robo-O will tell you, he's the first one to say, this is nuts.
Hot mess.
My challenge to you, the listening audience, is as follows. And that is, think about people who have those talents, who are unsung heroes, if you will, whether it be in a corporate situation, in your family, or just someone that you know that just appears so talented, but yet, because of life, they've taken a different turn. They're not using their talents. I guarantee you that in some way that talent can be used in conjunction with other folks to answer some of the pivotal, most fundamental questions regarding ufology. Now I understand what is the grassroots movement and what it is that UFO Buster Radio is going to focus on for 2017. So I challenge you this year to get your talents together, and sometime before the summer, we will start a group. And I want some of you to take that step. Come forward. Join those groups. Head those groups. Be a leader. Get together and use the power of globalization to get some answers. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to bring back the Majestic 12. But this time, those 12 individuals will be made up of you and I, folks like Big O, and ordinary folks like James, Tony, and Randall. People that believe in the fundamental ideas of ufology, but have nowhere to go. Those folks who are tired of listening to the same old stories with no new leads and nothing else to go on. So before we get into our UFO story for this week's Manny's Blurb, Robo-O is going to share a bit of information. Go ahead, Robo-O.
Don't forget to visit us at ufobusterradio.com, Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. You can help the podcast out by hitting the like button, sharing, following, and writing awesome reviews about me, Robo-O.
Thanks, Robo-O. That was really helpful. So, now let's get into the story. Whoop, what's that?
Manny, we have a message from a listener.
Oh, sorry. That's right. We do have some listener messages. Messages that were prompted by a question that I asked through our social media avenues, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So let's go ahead and start that real quick before we get into the story. So the question was really obvious. It was a picture that I, hijacked from somebody else. But the picture is a little outline of an alien, a gray, of course. The question is, do you believe life exists outside of our planet? And what is the most compelling evidence you have seen? So right up to bat, first to go was Ronnie Dawson. His response was, these are still frames of images from a video recorded over North Texas, the surface of a half-mile UFO from a distance of 1 mile. The EBE must have been 40 feet tall. The footage has been verified against fraud. We must accept that by some unknown means we are being visited by things not of this planet. And again, that is Ronnie Dawson. We had him on the show last year. We're looking forward to having him on again. And again, he is one that experienced what he firmly believes and has captured on a video and has analyzed and had analyzed a UFO and its EBEs. The next comment came on Instagram from the Secret Transmission podcast. And you've heard Toby before. He's been on here. And I'm not really sure if Toby wrote this. It could have been one of the other members of the podcast, because he does have usually about 3 or 4 individuals on each show. You should give them a listen. They are pretty funny at many times, and they do go over some of the unexplained things that we come across, such as the Mandela effect, which some of you might be familiar with. So they write from Secret Transmission Podcast, my personal belief is that it is impossible for our planet to be the only planet that has intelligent life. My only evidence I have to show is how sad it is if we are the only living things in the entire galaxy. 7 billion people living on one planet alone, but nothing exists off it. Seems impossible. Signed, Toby. I guess I should have read it first. Yeah, so that was Toby. Also from Instagram. And folks, if you want to send me messages on Instagram, you can find me at Manny Moonraker, no spaces. That's my Instagram for UFO Buster Radio. So the other one came from Craig Lani, my nephew and nieces. So basically they are the evidence that life might exist elsewhere, kind of from an alien perspective. What do you think about that, Robo?
Ain't nobody has time for this, Manny.
So James Villarreal, of course, he is the tinfoil hat winner, and his response to the question was, if we as a human race never find life outside of our own planet, solar system, or galaxy, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We just have failed to find it. And by the way, James, NASA feels the same way, because I'm pretty sure those guys are smart enough to know just because they're not looking in the right place or they haven't figured out how to look, they pretty much know there's something out there. They're just like playing with our emotions. And the last one on Instagram was from Robin Espy. Robin says, it's been found, it just not released. NASA is a fraud government. Frauds that don't want people to know there are smarter beings than them, the elite government, all around the world. That's where you, me came from, and we are all light energy beings, unless we are clones or of a reptilian nature. So again, we got some responses to the question, and really I invite you guys to join us on our social networks. We're not exactly posting every single day, but when we do come across something, we'll put it out there, and we always enjoy reading the feedback that we get from individuals who follow us and chime in every once in a while. Thanks, Robo, for reminding me. So our UFO news for this Manny's blurb comes from the website Debunked. Now, I've never heard of the website until just recently, but apparently it's been around for quite a few years, and as the name suggests, they like to debunk UFO stories. Now, you and I have been pretty excited about the recent story out of Chile, from the Chilean Navy. There are images from that infrared camera that they were testing from a helicopter, which picked up a UFO, which the Navy held for a little over 2 years because they had no clue and could not find any explanation for what was happening, what exactly was that this helicopter and its crew filmed on that one fateful day. I know what you're thinking. Are we really going to talk about this story again? Yes, we are. Not the entire story though. We're going to focus more on Debunked. So the first thing I want to say is that Debunked and basically the individual that actually went through the process of debunking or quote unquote finding an explanation for the Chilean Navy UFO video, his name is Mick West. No, not Dick West. Mick with an M. Mick West. So as soon as I looked up Mick West and his work on Debunked, of course I came across hundreds of thousands of videos and articles claiming that Mick West is actually a shill, or basically an undercover representative of the government that's keeping us from the UFO explanations. So of course that piqued my interest. I really wanted to find out what was it that Mick West published on Debunked.org, because it's important, and we'll see why in a moment. So Mick West put together an entire presentation basically. He wrote an article on Debunked regarding the Chilean UFO video, and when I tell you that he does have some talent in presenting his argument from the data that was received from the UFO video. Now, one of the things that Mr. West specializes in is contrails and chemtrails. Now, how do you become a specialist at this? Well, the topic actually came up a couple years ago in a video regarding the contrails and chemtrails, and specifically Mr. West. There were many people who claimed that Mick West is merely a video game programmer who has taken on as a hobby the identification and debunking of UFOs when there is a presence of a con or chemtrail. In the video for the Chilean Navy, there was what many assumed was some kind of a chemical or something being left behind, something trailing the UFO. Mick West automatically assumed that this was a contrail or a chemtrail, which actually came from your regular run-of-the-mill airplane. I recommend that everyone reads his article, and it's really important because, yes, Mr. West is debunking, and he puts together a very solid explanation as to why the Chilean video was merely an airplane that was basically leaving behind a run-of-the-mill contrail. And he takes you through not only maps, and not only does he quote verbatim what was reported, not only did he go and actually retrieve satellite data that tracked airplanes in that area at the same time that this helicopter was in the air and flying in the same direction that infrared camera was looking. He actually modeled the situation within Google Earth. In Google Earth, you had a 3D representation of where the helicopter was and where the plane was, or the UFO, because unfortunately, I'm not entirely convinced this is just a run-of-the-mill airplane, and just for one reason. According to the Chilean Navy, they contacted 2 different towers in order to find out if they were picking up this UFO on their radars, and the answer was no, they did not. So the question still remains, how is it that we have, according to Mick West, we have satellite data that shows 2 different airplanes on that day around that time in the air around Santiago, Chile, but yet the military could not pick it up from 2 separate locations on their radar? So that is just that's something that just was not explained in the article, and it wasn't addressed, But then again, when we first ran this story on UFO Buster Radio, we questioned the ability of the Chilean Navy and their state of technology. Is it possible that the military actually missed a civilian plane? I personally think it's almost unlikely. I mean, I don't think this civilian plane was using any kind of stealth technology borrowed from the U.S. just to take people to and from. So that really is a situation that needs to be explained. And how do we know? How do we know that data was not falsified? I mean, really, if it is something that is being covered by governments, why couldn't the data be falsified if the government knew that there was a UFO or a specific EBE faction in a particular area? I guess that's something we all have to think about. Is it possible? I don't see why not. Was it necessary? You make the call. But I bring this conversation on for one reason. Yes, I was totally taken by the level of expertise and the level of knowledge that Mr. West put together in this presentation. Now, he's not writing a scientific paper, but the information is there and it really makes sense. But I bring this topic because it brought me to my initial conversation, folks. If Mr. West really is just if he is just a game programmer that turned to debunking, then why can't you? Why can't I? There is one thing that we have to learn in the new ufology, And that is that we don't necessarily need to hate or ridicule folks that debunk UFOs, because there is quite a lot that we can learn from them in order to prove that there are UFOs, that there are EBEs, that there is a secret space program, that maybe there is another planet we have not seen. It goes to show you, we didn't have anyone that I could come across that used this technology, which is pretty much available to anyone, and I'm talking about Google Earth. There really wasn't anyone that took the time to show that this data could be used to show that this was a real UFO, a UFO that was not of earthly origin. But yet, on the other side of the fence, we do have someone trying to debunk it, and I understand that it's more than just Mick West that used technology to say that there was nothing worthwhile there. So I don't know what this means for the Chilean Navy, but I think it is a lesson for us who really want answers. And like we've said before, if you want the answers, you've got to go get it. And Mick West is out there getting the answers. Now, the answers are not supporting what we believe in or what we may have seen or experienced. But it's a lesson. It's a lesson that someone you know, or even you yourself, have skills like Mick West that can be put to solving this mystery. And with that, I leave you this week. Isn't that right, Robo-O?
Affirmative.
All right, Robo-O. Time to say goodbye.
Ciao, homies.